Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
You mean to wish me a good morning, or do you mean that it is a good morning whether I want it or not?
Please go away. Let me speak for the love of God.
Don't you reckon it's a little bit too early for Christmas, Ben?
We're not even like people complain that the minute the 1st of November rolls around, all of a sudden the Christmas stuff comes out. We haven't even had Halloween yet.
I know. And yet, this week, Eagle Entertainment saw fit to release the Grinch-themed horror movie, The Mean One. So, I guess we're entering the Halloween season.
Like you know the guys at Eagle. Why do you think they did it? Why didn't they hold out till Christmas? Too much competition or
I don't know.
overseas release date pressure?
I mean, I don't really know them. I mean, I work with them occasionally, but I don't know their logic behind this one. I haven't questioned it.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've got the director of that movie on today's show. So I guess there's a little bit of a Christmas theme.
Yeah.
Don't blame us.
Yeah. Blame Eagle.
That's right. Let's get things started. Welcome to Good Movie Monday. We're the weekly podcast dedicated to nerdy cinematic ramblings. My name's Glenn Cochran, and the other guy's Ben Hellwig, and we host this bad boy together. And we're glad you're listening, wouldn't you say?
Surprised. We're surprised you're listening.
That too.
That too.
Oh my goodness. Well, now that you are listening, do us a solid and subscribe to all of our pages if you haven't already. If you are on YouTube, click that notification bell and be alerted to whenever a new video drops. And just be prepared for a few notifications because we drop videos every day. So it's good stuff, though. It's good stuff. As well as our chat with Stephen Lamorte, the director of The Mean One. We also have our regular segments on this week's show. Jarrett Garn will be up soon from Monster Fest to talk about physical media. And three guys from the Bonehead Weekly podcast, all the way from Kentucky, will be joining us as well. Throw in a couple of catchy songs and we've got a pretty good episode, Ben.
Well, I'll be the judge of that. I was going to say that remains to be seen. We haven't done it yet.
We're yet to record a good one. Oh, what are we going to talk about before we throw to Jarrett? I haven't planned anything. You and I did, however, go and see Exorcist Believer.
We did.
Last week. And the world is going to town on this movie.
I was going to say it is a contentious title, but it really isn't because there seems to be everybody's in the hate basket except you.
But I reckon, you know what? I mean, my reputation precedes me. I do love pretty average movies, right?
Especially if there happen to be a sequel.
Yes, that's correct. However, if you go back and look at my track record, I'm pretty honest about how I feel about things. So those first two Halloween movies that David Gordon Green directed, I hated them with a passion.
You did indeed.
You know, like... But
everyone liked those too.
Well, did they?
Well, they liked the first one.
Yeah.
I don't know about the second one.
I had issues with them. Everyone we talk to seems to think I loved this movie, Exorcist Believer. It's just that in comparison with the hatred and the vitriol, I liked it.
Yeah.
I didn't love it. There's a lot wrong with it. I can point out its flaws. I don't see much reason pointing them out because I enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, that's all that matters.
Where do you stand on this one?
Look, at the time I was like, I think I said like I need to think about it a bit.
Yeah,
and I did think about it, and the more I think about it, the more I dislike it. Like the more like certain things you're like, why'd they do that? Why'd they do? I do seriously wonder. Like I was talking about this earlier today. This is a Warner Brothers property that Universal licensed for something. I think it was like something like $300 million or something like that.
It was a lot.
For Jason Blum to remake. Mm-hmm. But I wonder if there are any strings attached to that license. Like, things you can and can't do. Like, you must return a PG-13 movie. You must... Yeah, you can't have this. You can't have the Reagan character.
I feel like Blumhouse are really towing a line of safety at the moment. Like there's a lot of PG friendly kind of stuff going on with Blumhouse. I feel like they're playing it safe.
It is weird. Like I thought, what they did right with the Halloween movies is that they were pretty extreme, especially the second one. Even though that's the one that people seem to hate the most. Well, actually, no. Then the third one, people seem to hate that the most. But they didn't like they really didn't like the second one either. But the second one is so outrageously violent.
Pretty gratuitous, yeah.
Gratuitous is a great word to describe that film.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to The Exorcist, which is, I guess, has always been a bit of more of a cerebral horror, I guess.
Well,
I
you
mean,
know what?
when you watch the original one, she doesn't really.
Look, I watched the
more-
original one just the other day, and I mean, I've seen it that many times, right? But I was struck by it is quite confrontational, but the confrontation is more the fact that it's a little girl being essentially molested by a demon.
Yeah, and having a potty mouth and stuff.
Potty mouth, not only potty mouth, her actions are pretty vulgar.
Yeah.
She masturbates with a crucifix. She rubs her mum's face in the blood. She pukes green stuff. Like
Which
her head
is
twists.
my favourite part from Repossessed is when she pisses on the floor and then Veronica Cartwright just grabs her face and no, not it. It's my favourite part.
Look.
But it's more kind of it's like the Human Centipede.
It's thematic.
Which is, I think it's more gross than then it's not violent. There's
Well,
not,
no, I think it's
not
the
a lot
tone.
of kills,
I think it's the
and there's not a lot
tone.
of-
The tone
yeah.
of it's really, really uncomfortable, and I found that watching it the other night. I was uncomfortable watching it.
Whereas I didn't get this. I didn't get that uncomfortable
No.
sense in this
No.
one, and I thought that they left a lot of things on the table that they didn't exploit.
Look, I agree, and I think tone-wise, it wasn't blasphemous enough. Like,
Not at all. And
Like, yeah,
that was the thing. I was talking to someone on Instagram about it, and I was saying, they've gone. It's an interfaith exorcism,
Yeah.
because they've what's her name comes back and she's like the expert on exorcisms. What's her name? Ellen Burstyn.
Yep.
And she's like, every culture has an exorcism, kind of has a thing for this and
Yep.
a name for this and rituals for this. And I was like, and then then they gather a couple of different faiths. They've got like the a Latino priest and there's a black.
Yeah.
But then when you actually look at it, they're all actually just different branches of Catholicism.
Exactly.
They're not. There's no. It's not interfaith at all. It's just
No.
It's like we're bringing the left and the alt left together rather than. It's not.
Well, look. This I must say. What I enjoyed is that there was no actual sort of ordained priest taking care of this. It was a bunch of amateurs.
There was for a bit.
No, but he wasn't ordained. Like he could have done it. Like it's like in the original, he could have done it, but the church insisted on someone higher up with experience. Right? There was none of that. Like it was essentially just a bunch of amateurs that didn't know what they were doing. I like that direction. Look, I didn't have a problem with Ellen Bernstein being in it. She was tokenistic, let's face it.
Yeah, I thought what happened to it was good.
But she was good in it, though.
But then when you actually look at the ritual,
Yeah.
like they're not really. There's no ritual. There's all they just seem to repeat. They're like the power of Christ compels you.
That kind of stuff.
They're not even preaching in. Like there's no.
But then again, like if that is the ritual, it can't change, can it? Really?
Yeah.
Like that is the ritual.
But it's not. It's not. It wasn't in Latin. It's not in.
No.
It's not. It's just this weird. It's like they're basically. We kind of make fun of Chris Sun's The Possessor.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen
The Possessed.
The Possessed. Oh, yeah. If you haven't seen that film.
Yep.
Basically, John Jarrett runs around going, tell me your name. I cast you out. And he just shakes his hand. But that's really all they're doing in The Exorcist as well. Like, they're not really... They're not performing an act of magic.
In the original, the power of the original is in the way the adults are affected by the mind games.
Yeah.
Because the demon really gets inside.
And when you think about it, the whole Catholic religion and it's... Also, like all of those kind of monotheistic religions, they're all faith-based. There is no proof. You don't need proof. It's just faith. You just have faith that's what. Yet the exorcism, the whole idea of the exorcism, requires a definite act of proof to work.
Yes.
So it actually flies in the face of the entire rest of the dogma of every religion. Like every one of the modern religions.
I think I said this to you. Another thing that does bother me, it's more the way it's written, I guess. The people in the film that are the most religious people are always the ones that are portrayed as the idiots.
Yeah.
Right? And it's the person that's not religious that becomes the hero. And yet they've crossed over to the side of the idiots. Like it doesn't make any sense to me the way they portray the Christians and the Catholics. And
in real life, that the biggest pain in the ass is not a Christian; it's a born again Christian. Like anyone who comes to it later,
they're like vegans.
They're the ones who really believe it. Like the other ones are just giving lip service because they've been indoctrinated since they were kids.
Yeah.
The ones who come into it with eyes wide open.
Yep.
They're the
Well,
problem.
look, I had fun with this movie regardless of all that. See, I agree with all those criticisms, right?
Yeah.
I do, but I enjoyed it nevertheless, and it is the first of a trilogy. So where it goes from here, who knows?
I mean, I think we can all agree though, not enough tits.
Hey everyone, if you can just humor me for a second and just get your phone out, go to the App Store and just look up Newsly, right? Download that app onto your phone and start listening to Good Movie Monday the right way. Newsly, of course, is the super app. You've heard me say it 100 times. I'm going to say it 100 more. It's the super app that has you covered for all of the podcasts that you love, as well as all of the regular news from around the world. They go to 80 different countries and they pull the highest trending articles and put it into your phone, all depending on your search criteria. So whatever you love, they will have you covered, whether it's sports, whether it's music, whether it's politics, whatever it is, Newsly has it. You can also go to newsly.me and download it from there. And just as a special offer to you, our Good Movie Monday listener, they're going to offer you a month's worth of premium service absolutely free if you use the exclusive code Monday without the O, MNDAY. Go to that app store, look up Newsly, or go to newsly.me and download it there. Listen properly.
I'll get in the zone. Shake off the shit. Shake off the shit. All right, I'm in, lads.
That was your intro right there.
Oh, good. Yeah. Okay.
I had something
Excellent.
planned, but you had something better.
Oh, well, that's good because I was going to try and think of something creative in case you put me on the spot of going, do you want to do an intro? And I'm like, but I hadn't. I forgot about it. But anyway, another week, gentlemen, another week of home entertainment. And it's a good week because this week we're actually seeing a bunch of 4K Ultra HD hit the market. So both new and some classic titles coming to 4K Ultra HD. But the first one I'll mention is, of course, probably the biggest release in terms of box office and amount of people probably purchasing it, and it's Transformers Rise of the Beasts. It's coming out on all the formats as to be anticipated, 4K, Blu-ray and DVD. Good news, though, is that the 4K and Blu-ray both have Dolby Atmos. So if you're not looking for that uptick in quality, picture or Dolby Vision, you could easily get the Blu-ray and experience the same great audio.
Well, I mean, how else are you going to listen to...
Exactly. And you want to feel the entire room rumble.
Yeah, that's right.
But in terms of featurettes, special features, I should say, there's 9 featurettes and there's deleted scenes. There's no commentary on this one, which is a bit of a shame because, typically with these films, they don't double dip when it comes to releasing like a collector's edition. They just repackage all the films together in a 9-film set and whatnot.
People do not need a commentary. They just need to go back to a past episode of Good Movie Monday, play the interview I had with Dino De Laurentiis. I was going to fucking say Dino De Laurentiis.
I want to listen to that one.
Lorenzo Di Bonaventura and Stephen Cable Jr., the director and the actors.
I think they should just get Michael Bay to do
done.
commentaries on all the Transformers movies. And the ones that he didn't direct, he just talks about how he would have done it better and how...
Yes, totally.
Set.
Well, I'm curious to know if anyone's actually listened to a Transformers commentary, say, post the first Transformers, because the first one, obviously, people would have been a bit G'd up and excited, but has anyone bothered listening to those commentaries? Maybe that's what they've done. They've done some market testing and they go, look, to be honest, it's just fluff. It's just filler. Yeah. So let's just stick those featurettes we pre-made for marketing on there and include some deleted scenes. But anyway, yeah, that one's out on all the formats this week. Pretty much the lion's share of releases. In fact, all the releases this week are Universal Sony, but they are from the different companies. Obviously, that one being Paramount. The next one is from the Sony studios, and it's Insidious: The Red Door, which I saw a couple of weeks back. I think I mentioned it, rented it on PVOD, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fantastic. It does really bookend the series if it were to end here. Yeah, but it made a lot of money, so I dare say there will be an Insidious 6 come, a couple of years' time.
Are we taking bets on whether that will actually end the...
Well, we know there's a new spin-off coming, so...
yeah, well, there you go, exactly. Yeah. So that could be the territory it drifts into.
They're going into an Insidious story type of territory.
Of course. So, I mean, yeah, because there's work for more prequels with this franchise, if anything. But, unfortunately, obviously, it's only getting a Blu-ray and DVD release. That's global. There's no 4K coming. And given that Sony's only recently released the first film on 4K in the States and all the other chapters have only been on Blu-ray, maybe there's hope for a 4K package down the track. But in terms of special features, I'm bitterly disappointed with this release, particularly given that it was, Patrick Wilson's directorial debut. It doesn't even have a commentary. It's got like 2 featurettes on it. That's it. 2 featurettes. One is on Patrick Wilson, but let's just say these featurettes are, again, marketing fluff, EPK stuff that's probably readily available on the internet, but being put on this release. But we don't even get a bloody trailer, which I think's a travesty in this day and age that these releases are coming out. And it's the cheapest thing that you can stick on there is a trailer, and more often than not, it's not on the release. And I know people go, oh, but you can watch the trailer on YouTube. I don't want to watch the fucking trailer on YouTube. I put the Blu-ray in. I want to watch the trailer now. I always love looking at the trailer after finishing a film just to see how it was packaged and marketed, and also to spot those shots that didn't end up in the movie or alternate shots that were used in the trailer. So yeah, so it's a bit disappointing. And again, I don't see them reissuing a special edition of this because they haven't done that with any of the previous franchise entries, except obviously with the 4K release of the first film, which is just in the States, because I don't know locally if Icon still hold the license to the first film or not. So yeah, if you do want the first one on 4K, you're going to have to import it. But also from Universal Sony, and this time from, again, the Sony catalog actually, No Hard Feelings with Jennifer Lawrence. That's coming out on Blu-ray and DVD. And again, this one's a bit of a non-event when it comes to special features. I think you've got 2 featurettes and a bloopers reel. So that's it. I haven't seen it, but from what I hear, there's a particularly good wrestling scene in it, maybe, or something of that nature. So maybe they could have done some extended scenes of that.
That scene, the scene you're talking about is Jennifer Lawrence in full frontal nudity.
Yes, that's what I was alluding to. Yeah,
I don't know if they could.
If there's anything more to be extended. It's an interesting film for her to make too, considering, you know, she's sort of, I guess, reinventing herself to a degree, and this is the first film to kind of come out from that, and it's a shame. Well, I mean, look, I haven't seen it, so I can't comment. It might be excellent.
The film is actually really good. Like, it's hilarious.
It's just that I just thought that there would be something better for her to do than, say, this kind of comedy.
No, I like
given
that
she's turned in some great performances.
Man, it's like she's doing what I want Tom Hanks to do and go back to that kind of.
Well, yeah, true. Maybe she's doing those films she never quite got to do because she was kind of thrust from, you know, doing something like, was it Winter's Bone or something like that, straight into the dramatic, you know, sort of spotlight, and sort of saw that out for a number of years. So yeah, maybe it is great.
She did get her start on the Bill Engvall show on a like a, you know, one of those really bad. American, like sitcoms, like Jeff Foxworthy type show, like it's like a southern one where it's
of course, and it's one of those ones that never quite reached us because I don't think Australia took to Jeff Foxworthy, although he did come out and tour. But I tried and I was just like, I don't know, wasn't it? Didn't they kind of spin it off from Home Improvement back in the day? There was like a crossover and stuff.
Think it would have been a
yeah.
This is, and Bill Engvall is the, I think he's another one of those guys that does those, you know, the redneck comedy tours or whatever they are.
Oh yeah, Larry the Cable Guy, and
remember the Red Green Show?
Yeah.
No.
The Red Ring Show? Did you watch that on the internet?
Green Show.
That name rings a bell. Yeah.
It was kind of like a Home Improvement, but a Canadian one.
Okay, no, fair enough.
I thought it was like a
Tom Green crossover with someone else with the surname Red.
No, what's that computer game that the kids are all playing?
Command and Conquer. Oh no, that was about 30 years ago.
Leisure Suit Larry.
Halo.
Halo, yes, yeah. I think that was about 20 years ago too, but it doesn't end.
Well, all right, so just done the TV series of it, and you're like, what?
Yeah, I saw Paramount. It was on Paramount Plus. I mean, there's a few people that were championing it, but I also heard it was a load of shit. So I was verging on the load of shit because I hadn't played the game, so I figured, fuck it. So other releases that are coming out this week. Now, all of these other releases are from Studio Canal, and they are sort of classic titles making their way to 4K Ultra HD for the first time. Of course, it's headlined by The Wicker Man. And this is the stellar release of The Wicker Man. I'll tell you why. Because it's retailing for under $30. It is only 2 discs, both of 4K Ultra HD, but both contain all 3 cuts of the film and contain all the special features that are on the 5-disc edition that they're releasing in the UK with, you know, bloody soundtrack of covers and all this other nonsense, because the 2 Blu-rays in that have the exact same content that's on the 4Ks. So realistically, if you don't need all that extra fluff, and I weighed it up, and for like an extra, $80 odd, I don't need that fluff. This is going to be a great addition. You know, all the special features, all 3 carts. I'm excited to pick it up, and under $30 is a price that's right, which is better than Roadshow's pricing for The Exorcist, which went up. Like, when that thing was on pre-order, it was on pre-order for about $30, and as it got nearer to release, that thing jumped up to like $45 odd. And I assume their logic behind that is that we've included 2 4K discs. And you're like, well, congratulations, but you didn't include any special features on a Blu-ray disc with special features. So how that warrants a $45 price point, I don't know. But anyway, hats off to Studio Canal for not only including all that content on this 4K release, but keeping it under $30, which is good. Two other titles that are coming out from Studio Canal, U571, which I know you gentlemen are super excited about, that it's actually getting a release on 4K Ultra HD. Oh, did you? I saw it on DVD when it came out because it was one of those reference quality audio tracks. And I had zero interest in a submarine movie, but I was like, look,
you've been on this train for a long time.
I just like Harvey Keitel wearing his little sailor hat.
Oh, okay. I definitely prefer in clothes as opposed to him in the piano or Bad Lieutenant. Anything to cover up the little fella. Mama, mama. I'm so disturbed by that. Seeing that as that able for a Bad Lieutenant as a 15-year-old, it stuck with me. Little Harvey Crumpet down there. Yeah. Oh. And we've also got Cutthroat Island, Rennie Harlan's Cutthroat Island with Matthew Modine and Gina Davis, which I'm excited to revisit. And it's coming at a really good time too, because this was kind of the career ender to a degree for Rennie Harlan. I know that he obviously did Long Kiss Goodnight, but that was, well, I think pretty much because maybe even Gina Davis got him across the line with that. But have you read the latest news about Rennie Harlan doing this Strangers trilogy?
No.
Oh, this is crazy, right? So they're all coming out next year. So Rennie Harlan is directing a trilogy of Strangers films that are based off the first film, but I believe maybe exist in the same universe as the first film. I don't know if they're retconning it and pretending Strangers Pray at Night didn't happen, which is a shame because that's my preferred, one of the two films. Yeah. But it's a trilogy of fucking films. So all three films, and then they'll come out slightly spaced apart. They released some stills this week, and the stills look great, but how much can you tell from stills? Often the stills look better than the finished film does.
Yeah.
But the thing I didn't like about it was like the first film will sort of set it all up. The second film will go into how this violence affects, victims and the ongoing thing. And I'm like, oh, that sounds a bit dramatic. Then the third film's and then we kind of explore the origins of why these people do what they do or whatever. And I'm like, way to ruin a simple concept. Yeah. The beauty of The Strangers is that we don't know anything. They could be anyone. They've come from nowhere, spoiler alert that they were, young sort of teenagers in the first film. Why do we need to know?
Yeah, he's doing a Rob Zombie.
Lines? Exactly.
Giving us too much.
We don't need that. I was just make 3 films with them looking rough and scary as fuck, knocking off people in remote locations, and we're done. But anyway, it is interesting, and it's interesting to see him do something that's, getting a little bit of coverage as well. But anyway, that's a complete aside. And then the last release I want to mention is coming out from Universal Sony, but it's from the Paramount catalog, and it's Halloween H2O, and it's coming out locally on 4K Ultra HD. Look, if you're a casual fan, I guess it's good to pick up because it's, under $30. It's just the film. I mean, in the States, Scream Factory have released the same, release, but, with an abundance of special feature content, commentaries, featurettes, deleted scenes. I think there might even be an alternate cut of the movie, like a TV cut or something of that nature. So there is a definitive release out there. So, and I mean, look, if you're getting Halloween H2O, I dare say you're probably not that casual a fan. You're probably invested in the franchise, so there's a good chance you might want to pick up the better edition for an extra $20 from the States. So it does seem like an odd move, but I mean, they've done it in the States too. Paramount have released it as well, but at least they've had the courtesy of releasing it like 18 months after Scream Factory did. It's not one of those 2-week windows where we'll release our cheap version before you come out with your deluxe one. But anyway, it is an exciting week because I don't think I've seen a week where there's been that many 4K Ultra HD releases.
You've got 3 more releases to talk about on the filthy...
are they dirty DVDs from Eagle Entertainment and from somewhere else?
Well, I beg your pardon. One of them is our guest on this week's show, so the mean one is out on DVD.
Oh, the mean one. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I saw that. That's
Spooky
happening.
Halloween is coming out.
Yes, which is AKA... Spirit of Halloween, is it? Or what was the US title for it? It's named after... It's because it's set in the shop.
Store. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And Sisu.
Oh, yeah, which it's a great that Sony are releasing it physically, but only doing a DVD release.
But even though it is only DVD, it's a movie good enough for us to talk about it having a release.
Yeah, true. And let me know if you do like Sisu, and you want to own it, buy the version from the US. You can buy it on 4K Ultra HD.
Yep.
Not even just Blu-ray, but 4K Ultra HD, so they're completely skipped two formats. But yeah, so there's that one. I haven't seen it yet. I'm very keen to check it out.
It's good.
But yeah,
I'm
it was one of those
surprised
films
that
that kind of had a bit of a, when it finally came out locally, it had already been out in the US on VOD, so I feel like it had been a victim of sort of rampant piracy because there was such good word for it that people were eager to see it and unsure if it would get a release, so they resorted to illegal measures to watch it.
I really am
yeah.
surprised. Like, especially with 4Ks, because they're not region locked. Why they're not? I mean, remember back in the day with Blu-ray, they used to just
and we'd get the UK ones,
UK and Australian classifications all on the disc, and they would just pump them out. So
I know it's an odd, and that's the thing. I mean, some of the studios locally, like some of the Universal Sony distro product from Paramount. For instance, the Untouchables and Fatal Attraction, they're out of print now because they only did a limited print run locally. But exactly that, they just use the international discs that had to carry the local classification, but they use the international discs. And similar with the Studio Canal stuff, you get a one run of a lot of these titles. Universal Soldier, Red Heat, a lot of these titles are no longer available locally. But yeah, so it is odd. I mean, realistically, if they just did a JB exclusive and brought in like 500 units or whatever, I think they would move. But yeah, and given the climate now with Universal Sony's catalog moving over to potentially all interactive distribution, maybe it'll change things. Maybe there is an opportunity to do these sort of things. I don't know. But yeah, it is odd. It seems like such a small thing because it's pressed and it's sitting there waiting. So go figure.
There we go. Another week.
Anyway, gentlemen, so we did get to mention those dirty DVDs. I only excluded them because there was so much 4K content.
Oh, right.
It wasn't anything directed at those particular films.
Oh,
So, apologies to the director of The Mean One. I haven't seen it yet. I'm very excited to check it out, but I am saving it for the Christmas season. But all right, guys, that's all I've got for you this week. So until next time, stay physical.
Filthy DVDs, Ben.
It's a gross format.
I've got a room full of
I've got a
them.
room full of them. Yeah. I've still got more DVDs. I think I've got more. I wonder. It'd be a close one between DVDs and VHS, but as the formats increase, like I think I've got more VHS.
Yeah.
Laserdisc don't count.
Yeah.
Because I didn't get Laserdisc until much later. I got more VHS than I have DVDs. I've got more DVDs than I have Blu-rays, and I have more Blu-rays than I have 4Ks.
That makes sense. That's logical.
That's how it works.
Yeah, exactly.
But they never catch up because the formats come out too fast.
That's right. Look, I watch more DVDs than I do any other format. Like, it is just I've got too many good movies on DVD that I haven't upgraded.
See, I'm 100%
And it doesn't
into the
bother me.
streaming
It doesn't
thing
bother
now,
me.
really, with watching stuff.
Yeah.
Like when I have to pull out a disc because the internet doesn't work or whatever it is, I'm like, no, this fucking effort. And I don't know what it's like with your DVD player or Blu-ray player.
Yeah.
Once I've used it, for the next week, it keeps hijacking the TV, even though there's nothing in it.
No, it doesn't do that.
It comes on and then it takes it. You know how the TV
Yeah.
is on, like what if you got it on TV, it does the source thing, and it just the Blu-ray player always overtakes whatever you've selected. It just goes, this is my Blu-ray player constantly, like for a week after.
Here is the thought I have every single week without fail. So, on average, I watch one DVD a week, right?
Right.
So let's say I watched one 7 days ago, and I go in to watch another one. I open the DVD player, and lo and behold, there's the last DVD I watched, right, in there. And I think to myself, how many times do you reckon that spun?
Yeah.
Like if that's sort of still spinning, how many rotations do you reckon that is in a week? Far out. Is it
That's
trillions?
Yeah. I don't know. I've never tried. I've never seen one.
They spin fast.
Yeah, I've never seen how fast they spin.
Do you remember in the old days when you had really dodgy kind of DVD players and you'd press eject and it was still spinning when it came out?
Yeah. I remember that in the CD-ROMs on the computer.
Oh yeah, it tells you how fast they go.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, Jarrett.
And they were only 2-speed. That's like 2-spin. Do you remember when that was a thing?
I do.
A 2-speed, 4-speed, 6-speed,
Remember,
8-speed.
do you remember layer change?
Yeah, fucking oath. Like I've authored DVDs before, and the layer change stuff. You go, where am I going to put the layer change? Oh, I'll put it in the menus. Can you do that? No, not really.
All right, Ben, let's move on.
All
So,
right.
last week on social media, we put out a question for our followers to answer. We've had a few answer it, and it is, which children's book would you like to see turned into a horror movie? So that is our way of tying this episode into the interview that is coming up.
That's very clever of you, Glenn.
Oh.
However did you come up with
I
that?
don't know. I just thought of something and it came out. Okay. So the movie coming up that we're going to talk about is The Grinch. So it's called The Mean One. It's a take on The Grinch, I should say. Ben looked at me as if to say it's The Grinch.
Like it's the Grinch?
And
Grinch.
what story lends itself better to horror than The Grinch? I mean, that's pretty. Most of Dr. Seuss is pretty horror friendly, I reckon.
Yeah, except for one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish. The green eggs and ham, that guy's a maniac. I figure that's basically The Mask.
Well, yeah, or a sequel to Fried Green Tomatoes.
Gross.
They're delicious. You should love them. They're deep fried. They're beautiful.
Yeah, but they're tomatoes.
They're green though.
That doesn't help. That doesn't make it better.
I eat them every year. I love them. Anyway, let's move it on. We've got the answers here. So, some of the people that were on our socials answered, including good old Chad Jennings. Last week we had we had James, and this week we have Chad. Everyone poops.
Everyone poops. Perfect.
Yep. What would that story be about?
I just think it's about poop. It's
Well,
scary enough.
that's what The Exorcist was missing, right?
Human Centipede is about poop.
That's right.
That's
And
right.
everyone
That's-
poops.
And everyone poops. The Human Centipede could be the adaptation of Everyone Poops.
And the Hungry Caterpillar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Stan Stanley. Do you reckon that's his real name? Stan Stanley's someone who follows us, and he reckons Tiki
hope
Tiki Tembo.
Which I've never heard of. I don't
No,
know
I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
The name Tiki Tiki Tambo.
I was trying to think of
Says something to me.
what books do I remember as a kid, and like, what are we talking teen? Are we talking preteen? Like,
I'm talking
One's your
children's
mother,
book. I'm talking
mo-
more sort of.
like Possum Magic and the Magic
Yeah, well,
Pudding and
Ryan
stuff?
Kendall suggested Snugglepot and Cuddle Pie.
Yeah,
I mean, that title alone's horror.
yeah. That could work.
Yeah, I mean, that should be the name of our next show. Like, which one of us is Snugglepot and which one's Cuddle Pie?
It changes every week. Who's Big Spoon? Who's Little Spoon?
We had Justin McNamara suggest Where Did I Come From?
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you've seen the Puppet Master Littlest Reich, it kind of has a Where Did I Come From moment.
I just reckon that movie would just be a clip show of kids walking in on their parents having sex and the horror.
And the tagline, that's where.
They're not kids. They have to be old enough to know what's happening and be thoroughly disgusted.
Yeah,
by it.
traumatized for life.
Yeah.
It's like a Silent Night, Deadly Night thing where years later
Yeah.
the trauma resurfaces. And then, like, little Billy wields a giant cock, like a dildo.
Inspires him to kill.
What else have we got here? No, that's about it. We had like 6 people. No, Anthony Sullivan, actually, Harry the Dirty Dog. He mentioned that one. Now, Harry the Dirty Dog was a great book. I love that one.
I don't remember. Is that like Harry McClary?
Yeah, very similar.
Similar.
Yeah, Harry McClary.
Clifford.
Yeah. Clifford the Big Red
Clifford
Dog.
the Big Red Dog and Marmaduke.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was, as a kid, the only ones I read, I mean, like I was reading Asterix and Tintin and stuff. Like I remember there was one my father used to read to me, which was about a fisherman who who caught a mermaid in his nets. That's what it was about. And then, but I can't remember any of the others.
There's been some.
Until like I remember my mum reading me The Hobbit, and she read me Sherlock Holmes and the Hand of the Baskervilles. We had like a kind of a Kids Digest version of that, which is a horror film.
I said this a few months ago when we spoke to is it Reese Waterfield or Wakefield that directed Winnie the Pooh?
Yeah.
I suggested Mary Poppins. I think I said that to Jarrett recently too. Like, imagine a dark Mary Poppins where she just punishes those kids.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I mean, remember that there's that great, is it Jon Favreau Santa movie? Where it's Santa, got punished. He had to be good for 1,000 years, and then that 1,000 years is up, and it's like a Santa's sleigh or something like that, or
no, that's the Brett Ratner one.
Yeah. Which they've since done now with Violent Night, Deadly Night, and
Surely
Christmas, Bloody Christmas, and
surely somebody's got to do a naughty horror film.
yeah.
The naughty world lends itself to horror pretty well.
How'd you go with them sleeping in the bed together? I mean, that's not horror anymore. That's not
It's
allowed
still
to
good.
be.
No, well, that's why it's horror.
Is that just Noddy and his daddy?
And may I suggest a horror version
It
of
is.
The Secret Garden, and the horror lies in Daddy's torture shed down the back of the bush.
But do you remember? Like, I remember watching a lot of British BBC kind of kids series, and
Yeah.
they're all based on books like Box of Delights and Tom's Midnight Garden and Jinxie and all that kind of stuff. They're all horror.
Yeah.
They are all horror.
Well, I mean, children's literature is steeped
Like,
in horror.
you know, what you call it? The Tripods,
Yeah.
Day of the Triffids, not really, but Chrysalids. All those, I mean, we read them in school.
Well, you
Tomorrow,
go back
yeah.
to all of the Brothers Grimm, it's horror. The witches gobbling up
Yeah.
children, like, and Roald Dahl stuff. All the children have very nasty demises.
I'd like them to do it like an adult version of like a proper horror version of the witches.
Yeah, totally.
Like not like a kids
Horror,
horror,
yeah.
but like a really dark, violent. Because I mean, that the original movie with Angelica Houston was scary. I thought when I first saw it, like it did.
Most kids would agree.
It had its kind of, especially at the start. Once the witches actually come into it in the big group in the hotel, then it loses a lot of that horror thing. But when it's just that whole thing about that woman coming out, when he's up in the tree and the woman walking past and offer him and that stuff about the girl who ends up in the painting, that's all terrifying stuff.
Totally.
Like I wish they would do that.
We
but,
did
like,
grow up in
serious.
an era where kids' movies, particularly, were still scary. Like
Yeah.
I'm talking even Return to Oz and that kind of stuff for sure. And it's
Yeah,
we've
Return to
become
Oz,
sanitized
definitely.
with kids' films. Like back then too, the horror was a moral. Like there was always a lesson: good versus
Yeah.
evil, good boys and girls, bad boys and
Stay
girls.
away from chickens, as the case may be in Return to Oz.
Bellina, is it
Polina, yeah.
She always talk like this. Don't go there. No. Have we exhausted that conversation?
No.
No. Okay, keep going.
No. Let's just do the whole rest of the show as Bellina.
Oh, is Bellina? It's a bit like the chicken lady from Kids in the Hall. We could eat either one.
I'm the chicken lady. Ma.
Growing up, you don't see the writing on the wall. Passing by, moving straight ahead, you knew it all. But maybe sometime if you feel the pain, you'll find you're all alone. Everything has changed. Play the game. You know you can quit until it's won. Soldier on. Only you can do what must be done. You know it's some way you're not like me. You're just a prisoner, and you're trying to break free. I can see a new horizon underneath those blazing skies. I'll be where the eagles flying higher and higher. Gonna be a man in motion. All I need is a pair of wheels. Take me where my future's lying. Send down those fires. Burning up. Don't know just how far that I can go. Soon be home. Only just a few miles down the road. I can make it. I know I can. You broke a boy in me, but you won't break the man. I can see a new horizon underneath the blazing sky. I'll be where the eagles flying higher and higher. Gonna be a man in motion. All I need is a pair of wheels. Take me where my future's lying. Send down those fires. I can climb the highest mountain, cross the wildest sea. I can feel that Elmo's fire burning in me, burning in me.
St. Elmo's Fire in brackets Man in Motion by John Parr from St. Elmo's Fire, Ben. Why? Why not? Does it tie into the show? Not really. We're going to play my chat now with Stephen Lamorte, the guy behind the new horror film, The Mean One, which of course is The Grinch as told through a violent slasher horror film. But before we just chatted about some books that would be good horror films, kids books that would make some really sinister kind of adult films. Do you remember? It reminded me. Wes Craven was once attached to direct Dark Wonderland. Do you remember that? It was going to be Alice in Wonderland as told Wes Craven style.
Wes Craven style.
That'd be good.
I mean, considering that Lewis Carroll was a kiddie fiddler,
Oh, Jesus.
it's like I'm surprised it hasn't happened before.
And it reminded me too that Tim Burton was once attached to Dark Oz. There's going to be a horror Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, right.
That'd be all right. And that reminded me. Like, it's all connected, mate. It's all connected.
Well, wasn't his Charlie and the Chocolate? I mean, there's all that stuff about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory being like a horror.
Yeah, well, it's not.
Yeah.
It's horrific, but it's not a horror.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends on what actually happens. Do the kids die?
Well, in the book they do. I believe in the book they do. And in the original Wonka film, they don't. They just sort of, they get rescued by the Oompa Loompas, don't they? That's the whole reason for the song and dance.
Yeah.
But no, one of the very first, when I was a teenager, I used to sort of write sequels and scripts and things like that, right?
Yeah.
One of the first ones I did was a dark take on the Neverending Story, right? Because the concept,
pretty dark.
the concept of the Neverending Story itself, so the Michael Ende book, right, is that the story within the book is dictated by the personality of the person reading. So their imagination informs the story. Imagine if a serial killer picked up that book.
Yeah.
And that was my concept. I didn't quite write a script. I wrote about 3 pages in the treatment, and that's as far as I got. But
Things get dark for the rock biter.
that would be a fantastic horror film.
Yeah.
Although before they get to that, I'd like to just see them adapt the book properly
Yeah.
and then do it. Anyway, that leads us to the interview. Is that a tenuous segue or what?
Sure.
It's not Christmas though. But what the hell? Eagle have released it now, so we're going to chat.
Well done, Eagle.
We're going to chat about Christmas stuffs, and then after that, Boneheads.
Lovely.
Stephen, welcome to the show. It's a fantastic opportunity to be talking to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So we're going to avoid the G word, and we're going to only talk about the mean one. So what I'm interested to know straight away is, was the actual skirting around of the G word and flirting with the IP a whole lot of fun for you, or was it a pain in the ass to have to try and avoid it?
Well, there are so many great G words out there. I'm not entirely sure which one you're talking about. But when it comes to making a parody and kind of towing the line, if you will, with something that is maybe in the gray area of something we should or shouldn't be doing. It was fun. It's fun. We love these characters. I think that when it comes to parody and fan film and public domain, we want to take the toys and bring them into our sandbox and kind of, do all kinds of fun things with them. So finding ways to kind of dance around the stuff that we shouldn't say, or, finding ways to really put our stamp on it was a blast. And sometimes, because it's a parody and it's supposed to be funny, it gives you opportunity. Well, how do we take this problem and turn it into a joke? So it was fun. It was fun. Challenging. I've got like an associate's degree in copyright law now, but it was fun.
Yeah, I bet. Mr. Finch, anyone?
That's right. That's right. I want to get a jersey made that says Mike Finch on that.
Yeah, that's right.
If you know, you know.
It's been a great moment in horror film for adaptations of classic children's literature into horror films. We've had the Winnie the Pooh movie, there's Arthur 4 and the Banana Splits, and there's so many others as well. What inspired you to tackle Dr. Seuss?
Well, I've kind of always loved taking characters and concepts and ideas and things that we're familiar with and kind of turning them on their side, right? Putting my own spin on them. And so, something that's always kind of stood out to me, I used to be a teacher, right after I graduated college. And there's really nothing creepier than like kids' drawings, there's always a scene, and even our movie has one where, you've just got those like creepy crayon drawings that kids do. And some of these like classic pieces of literature and kids artwork, like if you look at them in the right light and from the side, you're like, man, that's pretty scary. And if someone was to describe to me the story of a tall, fuzzy, green, red-eyed monster that hates everything, I mean, that sounds like a horror movie to me. And so we just kind of picked up the lore and said, well, what is this most similar to? Is he Bigfoot? Is it like a slasher? And kind of just bringing in all those different references to the story while still paying homage to this thing that that we know and we love.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to sort of let's build upon that just a little bit because, as you mentioned, the great children's literature is steeped in horror. Like it just is, Roald Dahl's work, Brothers Grimm, and Dr. Seuss's stories certainly lend themselves very well to this kind of liberty, if you will. Where was your mind at, like, in tackling this? Were you hell-bent on pushing it as far as you possibly could when it comes to the horror? Like, just despite the fact that it's, kid stuff?
No, honestly, no, not necessarily. These are characters we love and kind of concepts that have a special place in our heart for a reason. So it was important that we didn't just take an existing character and throw him into a different context. It's not just Jason in space, right? The idea was to pay homage to love and respect to this, original story. So we wanted to make sure it was still funny. We wanted to make sure it was still a Christmas movie. We wanted to make sure there was a message, and it's not just pick up this one toy and, kind of mess with it. But instead kind of take the whole thing, the lore, the mythology, what makes it special, and try to really something that I think even people have who haven't seen the film are like, oh, they think we're going and, just ruining the legacy of this character. And it's an homage. The themes and the ideas of it are integral to the story. So no, we didn't want to push the horror too far because we still wanted to make a Christmas movie that was funny and scary, but maybe a little warm and fuzzy.
It's funny that you mentioned, people saying that, you're ruining the legacy because you can't ruin a legacy. That's there. Like, that's not going anywhere. And when we spoke to Reese Wakefield when he made the Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey movie, we had all these comments on our social media about how deplorable the movie was and that it's ruined their childhoods, which you can't ruin someone's childhood now. Obviously,
Right.
Obviously, these people are just fucking idiots. But like, I'm wondering if you face similar backlash, like fiercely.
We have. I mean, it's. I do have a smartphone. I exist on the internet, so I'm aware of commentary, good, bad, or otherwise, about our flick. What really stands out to me is people make assumptions about a movie or a project or really any piece of art. Without without watching it or engaging with it. I get it if I'm not a big fan of historical documentaries, right? So it's kind of hard for me to critique something like that without viewing it. The only thing I ask is just that people give our independent, silly, it's a comedy, right, horror parody a chance, because there I think it has some heart that might surprise people. Pun intended.
Well, I mean, but also like the only people that are really going to love a movie like this are people that already love movies like this. So it's not like you're corrupting people or anything like that.
Well, and on top of that, we take great pains to make sure, whether it's in the marketing or in the messaging, that we don't want anyone to be confused into thinking this is something that it's not. We don't want a kid to accidentally stumble upon our film. Like, we don't want people to think that this is, an officially authorized thing from the original creators. They have their thing, and, we kind of have our playful twist that makes up ours.
Hey, you've also directed like a family drama in the past, so you can always direct people that way.
That's right. Well, I've done other Christmas movies. I've done pro wrestling movies. I directed Miss World America live from Las Vegas in 2019. I mean, I have a strange career, and it just keeps getting weirder.
Well, that's awesome. Eclectic, we'll call it. How did locals react at the time of the production being on the streets and whatnot?
Well, because the creature doesn't come out during the day, out of context, for the most part, we just look like any other independent film. There's a police officer, there's a young girl. But once you start hanging like a Santa mannequin, and there's, our badass lead is like punching the Santa Claus suit. They're like, oh my God, the neighbors are driving by. They're like, they're killing Santa Claus. I said, yes, that's who it is. It's Santa Claus. Pay no mind about any of the green fur or the teeth or the blood. But it was fun for sure. And, sometimes people when they would see like the sketches or, the movie has like, wanted posters or missing posters, or you'd have someone come in who's maybe just driving the rental ambulance, or a police car, or someone who's just dropping some things off, or switch out a crew member for the day, and they see the creature suit hanging on the rack, and they're like, wait a minute, is that what I think it is? So that's always kind of fun. And we're like, no, any familiarity, any passing similarity it has to anything you may or may not recognize is purely a fever dream on your part.
That's right. That's right. That's Mike Lynch. Greatest gag in the movie. And that guy that was in the Santa suit with the green fur and the eyes was David Howard Thornton. He's become like a bona fide slasher icon now. Like he is someone that fans sort of swarm to see at conventions and whatnot. How did you luck out with him?
Well, I mean, I've been following Terrifier since Terrifier 1, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, not everybody knows this, but I went to high school with some of the producers, Fuzz on the Lens, who made Terrifier 1 and 2. So I've known them, we went to high school together. We were shooting, comedy sketches and, doing the news desk at the high school TV station. So we've been making movies and videos together and apart forever. And I had been keeping my eye on, on Terrifier and, congratulating them. Dude, I saw your movie on Netflix. And, we're like, when are we going to, collaborate on something? And we may have something in the works. But as this project started coming to fruition, it became more and more clear we were looking for a mime clown. It was going to be a really performance based, because we didn't just want the creature to just be Sasquatch lumbering through the woods. And I said, we should look at, they're working with David right now on Terrifier 2. We should look at Terrifier for David to potentially be our mean one. We watched the film again. I think Amy, my wife, who also plays Mayor McBean and produced the film, we watched the film like this. And we're like, we saw him dancing around with the hacksaw. We're like, oh man, this could be our guy. And we reached out to him, and it turned out he had played this character before, in various stage plays, and he knew the source material, and he had all of these ideas. And once he came out on set with the makeup and the hair and the hat and the teeth and the eyes and the whole thing, he did one take. No dialogue, right? No sounds. He did one take where he like rubbed his hands together and lurked across the screen and was like, how's that? And the whole crew, they're, who had been shooting for weeks at this point, their jaws dropped, and they're like, that's the mean one. I mean, it was awesome. Really cool.
Was there any crossover in productions? That they already finished and wrapped up Terrifier 2 at the time? Or was he, hop skipping back and forth?
I believe they were... If they weren't done, they were 95% done. Most of the movie was in the can, and, he was sharing some, behind the scenes tidbits and stuff. And then it just kind of worked out that their release ended up as close to our release, and they ended up going to theaters, and we ended up going to theaters. And it's just a great time to be an independent horror creator. We're not backed by a major studio. Our budget is, very modest. A wonderfully creative obstacle. And, to see independent horror kind of pop up and connect with people and create these like theatrical experiences has been a blast. It's been really cool.
Awesome. Two more questions before I wrap this up. First one being, do you have any plans to adapt more classic children's books into gory slasher films? Because I think Mary Poppins is begging to be turned into a slasher.
I love that. That's got to be the best part of going to conventions and meeting people is I'm getting pitched like horror remakes of all kinds of crazy stuff, and I'm like, just so you know, if you tell me and we haven't signed anything, I could have thought of it on my own. Okay, so you're giving me this idea.
Not this one. It's on camera.
We've got it. Okay, fine. I won't be stealing it. It's an homage. Then it's flattery. I have one or two things that I'm tinkering with at the moment that I'm not at liberty to discuss, is what I'll say. But you have not heard the last of me and my team making horror comedies. and you'll just have to wait and see.
Excellent. Well, we know it's not Bambi because that one's already in the works.
Because that one's taken. That's right. Bambi's taken. Sleeping Beauty's taken. Every time a new one pops up, it's like whack-a-mole. I'm like, okay, great. This is cool. I'm sure. I know they're doing another Winnie the Pooh, and I'm excited to see that one. And
I love that. What was it? Luc Besson's official part 4 of the Arthur series is a horror film, like a slasher film. Like that's really weird that the official part 4 would be a slasher. But anyway, just a side note.
Look, I mean, if you look at even A Haunting in Venice is it's a third Agatha Christie, and they're like, okay, well they're selling it. The first 2/3 of that trailer is just straight up horror, and then he comes out with his mustache, and you're like, oh, they made another one of these.
I know.
Interesting. I think we're going to see more and more flicks are going to lean really hard into, if it's even mildly scary, they'll spin it like a thriller. And, my only hope is that they don't, I think like M. Night Shyamalan, a lot of his films, because they cut those trailers to make them seem like they were horror films, and really they were more thrillers, especially his earlier stuff like The Village and things. I just hope that they don't take the marketing too far, because then people might be like, oh, I thought I was going to see something, and now I'm seeing something else.
There's too much deception going on, yeah.
We want people to come see real horror movies, and
so even the Bring It On franchise, their last installment was a slasher film. Go figure.
Really?
Yeah. All cheerleaders die or something like that. So final question, I asked this of a lot of people, like, what was the movie that got you into filmmaking, like when you were young? What's the penny drop moment for you?
The movie that got me into filmmaking. It's not the most original answer, but it would have to be Star Wars. Watching Star Wars on VHS, the not specialized, these are like the most lo-fi analog way to look at it, knowing that I didn't understand what I was seeing. I didn't understand how they had done it. I mean, that was the thing where I'm like, there's something organic here. There's puppets. I think it's wires, but like my little brain couldn't wrap my head around what it was that I was seeing.
Yep.
And my first movie was a little stop motion Star Wars film, and I'm like hand drawing onto the film the like lightsabers and stuff. I mean, I don't know. I feel like anyone who gets into genre, it's always Star Wars or Star Trek.
Mate, I speak to a lot of people, and anyone of our generation, they owe a lot of debt to Lucas or Spielberg, one or the other. That's always the answer, and it's a good answer.
It was either that one or Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, that's right.
It's always I could teach a class on how much I could teach a long boring class on the first 10 minutes of that movie, because I just love that film so much. But there's something about the creation of, I mean, there's a lot you can do on a stage, and there's a lot you can do with animation and, cartoons and drawings and stuff. But when you really believe that boulder is coming at you, or that giant spaceship is like actually there, this is in reality. I mean, it's magic. It really is. And that's
absolutely,
that's why we do it, man. That's why we do it.
Absolutely. Those guys, yes, they are. We owe them a debt of gratitude. The Mean One is a hell of a lot of fun. It's a really, really cheeky horror film. And I hope that as many people possible can have the opportunity to watch it. But thank you so much for taking the time to chat. It's great to have you on the show.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to Bonehead Weekly Fun Size, and it's Disney's 100th anniversary, and 2 out of the 3 Boneheads really love Disney.
I got huge headroom, even though the people from Good Movie Monday.
You, sir, have max headroom.
Yeah, I am not
timely.
If you were curious who that it's me. I've never been a huge Disney person. I respect Disney. There are several films in the Disney catalog that I enjoy, but I have never been able to get into the Disney madness that the other two are into.
The only catalog he's ever enjoyed is the Victoria's Secret one. He's got them confused.
I am a Sears catalog. Thank you very much.
Did they make that anymore?
No, his wish book stopped showing up about 20 years ago.
And by the way, the tragic part about that is that
we've only got 4 minutes.
He prefers the Tragic Kingdom over the Magic Kingdom.
James, I'm taking this out of your part. You go first. What is one of the best? We did this as an episode, but what's your favorite Disney villain? Go.
Honestly, my favorite one is Ratigan, because I understand where he's coming from. Right, the Great Mouse Detective. Arguably, he makes a very cogent argument. Now, he's egotistical, and I would argue he's not the one. But his basic argument is he should be in charge because he's smarter. I mean, that's the argument that he really has is he views himself as the greatest mind. So why shouldn't he be the ruler? He's wrong because he's not. He's right in that why are we letting somebody just by birth decide that they're going to rule over all of Mousedom? It just seems wrong. Now, what I will say is Radigan is my favorite villain because he's right. I do want to throw out, there's two, though, that went on the, hey, they just look cool. That would be Chernobog, i.e. Night on Bald Mountain, and the Horn King from Black Cauldron doesn't get enough
Dude,
love.
I was going to talk about the Horn King. You got
Well, talk about the
going.
Horn King. Go.
The Horn King is because I just love everything Skeletor. And honestly, if you've got a skeleton with a robe on and some horns, what's wrong with that? That's the movie that no one talks about. Actually, the movie that no one talks about is Song of the South. But the Horn King and the Black Cauldron is one of those that's kind of forgotten. Chad and I had two different ideas for this segment. We'll probably do them again, but so I can talk about other ones. But the Horn Kings visually is pretty striking. And I would talk about Bald Mountain, but James decided to talk about 5 different characters. Chad.
3.
So-
You just Monty Python. 5, 3, 3.
I have a tie for who my favorite Disney villain is.
For number 6.
No, I'm briefly said Hades is one of my favorites, but he is slowly inched out by the amazing Madame Mim
Yeah.
from Sword in the Stone. She is probably my favorite villain of all time. She has some of the best lines in Disney history, in my opinion. I mean,
When we talked about it in the longer episode, I told you if you read the book, it's in the first few chapters, and it's just really a chapter. They spend a lot of that movie from the actual Sword in the Stone book by White. It's not in that movie, but they spend a lot of time with Madame. And I get it; it's great in the movie, but in the book, it's not as prescient.
yeah, and Madame Mim only has maybe 10 minutes of screen time in that whole movie, and she steals the movie from everybody. I mean, she's the most memorable character in my opinion. And, like some of her lines sounds like someone's sick. How lovely. I do hope it's serious. Something dreadful. And that's Martha. I cannot do Martha Wentworth. I believe that's her, the person who did the voice of Madame Mim. But through and through, the woman is just nasty and mean. And all she cares about is causing trouble. There is no rhyme or reason to her. She's just a terrible person. And that's what I like about her, because all these, sometimes Disney goes a little over the top on, giving villains backstories about why they're evil. Madame Mim doesn't have one. She's just mean.
Well, that's who
All
she is.
Yeah.
By
The
the way,
marvelous. I'm going to butcher the song.
Marvelous Madame Mim.
Yeah.
This has been Bonehead Weekly Fun Size.
By the way, real quick before Joe cuts it, what he's going to try to cut out is the fact that he wanted to correct Chad. He finds the oddly attractive female squirrel the most compelling part of Sword in the Stone. Good night, everybody.
Yes, subscribe to the Bonehead Weekly podcast. Find them on YouTube, Facebook, everywhere you get podcasts from. Throw them some support. They do a lot for us, so let's do something for them.
I was going to say we do nothing in return.
No, but you can. You can support them by liking and subscribing.
Yeah.
And their podcast does come...
you mean the listeners?
That's right.
Not me.
It's not just us
you're
here,
looking
mate.
at me.
Who else am I going to look at?
Fair point. You look at yourself in the mirror.
That's true. Oh, I should start doing that. It's become an attractive
pretty.
podcast.
Oh, so pretty.
The Boneheads are Joe Lewis, Chad Jennings, and James Thomas. Thank you to them. And we did play a song back there from St. Elmo's Fire, and that is because I want to talk about St. Elmo's Fire. That's my recommendation, and the only reason it's my recommendation is because I didn't have any time to watch anything else. And that was my comfort movie for the week, Ben. Sometimes you just got to put something on and not worry about work and not worry about covering it. And I thought, fuck it, I will cover it. That'll be my recommendation. So easy done. 1985, directed by Joel Schumacher.
Yeah.
Now, I always had really, I had a soft spot for this film. It was always a bit of a classic in my eyes. It didn't hit the way it used to when I watched it this week, but it's still pretty good.
What do you reckon the cocaine budget was on this film?
Oh, God. Demi Moore, apparently she went to rehab before making this movie so she could make this movie, and then they put her back in it for the movie.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, this movie, when it did come out, was torn to shreds by the critics. Like, it was absolutely pounded. But it still found a cult following pretty quickly.
I thought this was at the height of the Brat Pack.
This was the beginning of the Brat Pack.
The beginning of it, right?
So Breakfast Club had just come out, and half the cast jumped into this film. But if you watch the special features on like the Blu-ray, Joel Schumacher talks about the origins of the Brat Pack, and he hates the term. He really hates it. He thinks it's really offensive. Anyway,
To them or to
them,
To them.
to them, because and he goes into reason. And, you know, it's a fair point. He was approached by some journalist, an entertainment journalist, to write a story about the cast in these two movies.
Yeah.
And so what this guy did, he took a photo of, I think it was Rob Lowe, Emilio Estevez, and Andrew McCarthy, put that as the front headline article, and called them like, you know, Hollywood's Brat Pack, yet misrepresented them because the stories he told and the photo he shared were stills from the movie and stories from the movie. It wasn't actually them behaving, but that's the reputation the entire young Hollywood pool of talent copped at the time and kind of stuck with him. But he did concede that it was probably advantageous because, you know, it kind of created a little bit of a universe in and of itself.
Yeah.
And there's 15 Brat Pack movies, I think.
Yeah, right.
Like something like that. There's a lot.
Yeah.
And you go down that rabbit
But
hole.
does it just have to? What does it have to qualify as a Brat Pack movie?
At least three.
At
I
least
think.
3 of them.
3 of them. Because I think there's probably about 10 to 15 members of the Brat Pack.
Yeah.
And then there's like little offshoot movies where there's only 2 of them, or, you know.
Yeah.
I love that. I love the whole era. So it's kind of an affectionate term for me. But I can see at the time it would have been a little bit disappointing.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Cinemas Fire, it was called The Little Chills by most of the media at the time, because it was essentially the Big Chill as told with like 20-year-olds. And the concept
They're
of
feeling nostalgic for 2 years ago.
That's what's so funny about this movie, because they're fresh out of college and now they've got to enter the real world and the prospect of going separate ways, you know, letting go of their youth, all that kind of stuff. But the way they act it and the way it's written is as if you think they were 50. You think they were actually moving on to middle age because they're really lamenting what they're losing. And it's like, come on, you're like only 21. Like you really are only 21. You got another 10 years of party ahead of you, really. But also different era, different time. Like people grew up faster back then.
Well, it was the greed of the 80s too, where they were, you know, you had to get a corporate job and, you know, there was no internet. There's no, you know, there's a lot of less. There was a lot less ways to interact with people.
That's right. Although, you know what, I can identify with this film because I do think it's pretty wanky and pretentious. Like I really do. I think The Big Chill was as well, but that's part of the charm, I guess.
Yeah.
But like I think of when I was that age and the friendship circles I had and the directions everyone went in and the personalities we had, I can kind of relate to it. And I watch my daughter's friendship circles, and right now they're around 22, 23, and they're kind of going in different directions. And so
they're still kind of like not man. I don't know what you call women who are man-childs. They're still kind of
but what I'm getting at
today,
is
it takes a lot longer for.
But I can see how this film's still relevant. Like if you took a new young generation and put this movie on for them, I think they'd identify with it.
I think they would too, but I think they're a lot older.
Yeah,
I think now the way that they feel in that is how people who are like 29, 30.
Yeah, or even
now,
40, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I'm getting at, is that we've aged differently. The generations are aging differently. And I feel like back then you took on responsibility at a much earlier age.
Yeah. But I think mainly it was because there was a lot more choice.
Yeah.
Because things were kind of affordable.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now you just can't afford to.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
that's true.
There's a lot of stuff you can't afford.
You dreamed of owning a home by the age of 25. Like that doesn't happen anymore. Let me quickly run through the cast here, and then I'll throw it over to you. But you had Rob Lowe, who was the youngest of the cast, and Schumacher didn't want him at first. Didn't think he was right for it. Turned out to be perfect for it. He was the rebellious sort of loser of the group. Emilio Estevez, Demi Moore, Ali Sheedy, Andrew McCarthy, Judd Nelson, Mayor Winningham, and Andy McDowell. What's his name?
I forgot Andy McDowell.
Yeah, Schumacher also didn't want Judd Nelson in this, but Ali Sheedy insisted on it. Like that was her stipulation. Andy McDowell. It was I think her second film. She'd done the Tarzan film,
which she'd been dubbed in.
Which she was dubbed by Glenn Close, right? But this was her first speaking role where she used her own voice.
Yeah,
she's good in it. She's really good in it. She's really pretty because she was like a model, you know. Yeah. But I think she's got a really nice performance. She's the most subdued sort of, down to earth person.
I think a lot of the actresses a lot of actresses you find, they all dabbled in modelling before they, that's how they earned spare
That's how they got cast back then.
Yeah, that's how they earned cash.
That's right.
It's waitressing jobs and modelling jobs.
So look, I don't think it's a pinnacle of the 80s by any means, this movie, but I do think it's a nice slice of the 80s. And it used to hit me harder, but it's still,
I haven't seen it since VHS.
yeah, it's got a good soundtrack, as we've proven. So there we go.
Yeah.
Oh, Bob Clark's in there too. Good old Blake Clark. Blake Clark, the guy that took over Jim Varney's role as Slinky Dog in Toy Story. You'd know him. He plays the bar owner of St. Elmo's Fire, and I was like, I had never realised that until now. Anyway, your turn.
Oh. Well, I watched. I think, and I was talking to you while I watched it.
Yeah.
I decided to watch. I was looking. Oh, okay, that guy. Yeah.
You weren't supposed to react while we're on the mic. I'm showing you in private.
I love that guy.
Yeah, I know, but they didn't know I was showing you a photo.
You showed me yeah, that's why we need to do a video version of this podcast.
Would you like to do that?
No. I was similarly attracted to a comfort film, which is really it's all I watch. I don't have to watch except for things that we program for the festival. I do not have to watch movies for my job. It's just a nice perk. But I don't know about you, but nothing spells out comfort film more than Steven Seagal.
Of course.
He's the ultimate, more so than any of the other kind of action stars, because his shit movies are cut above all the other action stars' shit movies. Like, they're either too
He's
good.
got several eras of shit movies, though.
Yeah.
Like the current era of shit movies.
The ones where he's dyed, once he had to start dyeing the goatee and his chin merged into his
I
neck.
feel like he sprays it on.
Yeah. It's in a can.
Yeah.
But this one, I ended up watching The Patriot, which
of course, yeah.
from 1998, which is 2 years before Mel Gibson's The Patriot. Mm-hmm. I'm surprised they didn't have to call that Mel Gibson's The
And wasn't
Patriot.
there like a Peter Berg Patriot as well? Was that? No, that was Gladiator. That was Gladiator. Never mind.
Oh, yeah, there's a couple of Gladiators, yeah. One, the boxing one, and then the actual Gladiator
my mistake.
movie, and then
Carry
the car
on.
movie. There's a giant truck movie called Gladiator.
Yeah,
Anyway.
we're not talking about that.
But this one was interesting. Basically, the plot of this movie is that Steven Seagal, of course, he's an expert leading world like what's the term, world leading immunologist. I've lost the ability to speak.
Does he know how to say it?
No, not in the film. No, they never actually say it. But he's a vaccine guy. He works. He was like one of the leading guys at the CDC and all that kind of stuff. And he's given that away, and now he's moved to a country town where he is the local doctor who basically works for free. He's just giving back to the community, and he pretty much makes his own medicine. He doesn't trust the big pharmaceutical companies and all this kind of. He fixes up. He does the same thing with horses, and he treats people with cancer. With his homemade.
He's doing God's work, mate.
Yeah, he is. But also in his small town, there is a bunch of militia who, they're
Now
out
we're
to take
talking.
our guns, and this is just post Waco.
Yeah.
So this kind of thing is big.
Yeah. Hot topic.
But these these militiamen during a standoff, they actually rob they pay some guy to smuggle out this virus from a lab. And they basically kind of give up the standoff by infecting themselves with this disease, thinking that it's going to spread and kill everyone, and they'll have the antidote, and then they can only give the antidote to the people they choose, and thus they'll be able to take over the government, stand up for the Constitution and all this sort of stuff. Unfortunately, the cure that they have, the virus is mutated. The cure that they have doesn't work, and lo and behold, the only person who can maybe fix it is Steven Seagal, who just happens to live in this small town where they've set this virus off. And it was just a really interesting. It actually, Steven Seagal does get to do a bit of action. There are some Indians in there who, who basically figure out the cure with nature. And flowers and stuff, and whatever compounds that they find naturally, they figure out a way to defeat the virus and stuff. But I've also been watching a lot of The Last Ship, which is another one of those.
Yes.
Like it's a pandemic TV series and stuff like that. And they do try. Like I was surprised at how much, they try and isolate the original strain, and they do all this sort of stuff, which I give them. I honestly did not believe that they would be that thorough in a Steven Seagal movie. They're actually more.
Yeah.
There's more technical stuff about fighting the virus in this than there is in Outbreak.
Yeah, right.
Which is, a big Hollywood.
Well, Outbreak was all about the monkey, wasn't it?
It was just all about the monkey.
Now, we need to, just the elephant in the room here, need to talk about who directed The Patriot.
It's Dean Semler.
I know. What?
Cinematographer extraordinaire.
The guy
Dean
behind Mad Max 2.
Dances with Wolves.
Yes. Young Guns.
Guns, everything.
Yeah.
He directed this, and he's only directed, I think he's directed 3 things, but 2, like Firestorm, which I thought was the other Steven Seagal movie, but it's the Brian Bosworth movie, which is even better.
That's right.
And this.
Wow. I mean, William Forsythe is in that. Scott Glenn is in that. Yeah. Holy
There's
shit.
There's L.Q. Jones is the only other kind of real name in The Patriot. But I think it was on Prime is where I watched it. So if you do want to check it out, it is available. It was a bit of fun.
Back in the old days of the original podcast, Mr. Scotsman himself, Sean Crawford, right? There was not an episode that would go by when he did not name drop or reference Dean Semler. And if you're listening right now, Sean, you know it. So he would have had the biggest raging hard-on when you mentioned that movie, The Patriot. Yep. He would have been all over it like a rash, a viral rash.
And the movie does look pretty good. It's let down. The bad guys are a bit shit, and Seagal doesn't get to do as much action.
Yeah.
If there's a lot more actual medicine, figuring out the cure kind of stuff, and a lot less kick-ass stuff, which is a shame.
One thing I remember about this is the really awful poster, because back in the day, you'd have floating heads on a poster, but this is a giant floating head. His head takes up the entire poster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love for someone to do a special edition Blu-ray of this and give it some awesome art, the awesome art that it deserves.
Excellent. Well, that is a nice way to bring us to an end, mate.
With a pandemic movie.
Yeah. Do you want to take us out? No?
No.
Come on. Tell people where to go. Come on.
Where do they jump off a cliff, you cunts?
Wow. He's recycled that one. Before we sign off, please do go to our website, goodmoviemonday.com, and follow the links to all the social media pages and like and share and all that kind of stuff.
I thought we had done this earlier in the show, but
We do.
now that you're saying it, I realise we didn't actually.
Oh, we kind of do. Yeah, but
all we said was follow us on social media, but you didn't do the website thing.
it's habitual and it's obligatory. Like you got to do it. If you have a podcast, you got to do it. And hey, it really does help. Like, so if you're listening and just hear us say it every week, just because that's what we do, please do on YouTube hit that bell. You get the notifications. We need the support.
We need the dopamine hits.
Oh, you've done it to me again. Got a dopamine drop. Dopamine drop. Yeah. It's a weird Paul reference right there. I do it. You can't say dopamine drop to me and have me not do that.
And not do Weird Paul.
Yep, it is my knee jerk. Okay, so that's the end of the show, Ben. It's been a fun one.
It's been great.
It's been great. Good luck with Monsterfest, mate.
Thank you. It is this week.
Do you want to quickly plug it?
Monsterfest is on this week. Why don't you come to Monsterfest? Monsterfest.com.au/Australia. Check out the program if you're in Melbourne. The rest of the states, they're coming up in a bit, starting on the 27th of October. If you're in Sydney, Perth, Adelaide, or Brisbane, you can check out Monsterfest. But if you're in Melbourne, it's this Thursday, and the program is pretty kick-ass. I'm excited. I just ordered a bunch of raincoats for the We Kill for Love screening. The documentary on erotic thrillers. So definitely come down for that if you wanna sit in the cinema with a bunch of like-minded perverts wearing a raincoat.
Are you allowed to jerk off?
I wouldn't say allowed. And the raincoats are sheer, so if you do, you do so at your own risk.
Well done, sir. I bet you'd done that at the start of the show.
Yeah, when people were still listening.
Yeah. That's right. All right, we're going to leave with a song called I Will Be Strong by Eddie Money from Over the Top.
Great.
Yes. See you next week, everybody.
Bye.